to resist the sunk costs fallacy, and if I start a book and I know right away the writing style is not for me, the story is not for me, I will stop. And I did that last year, but I want to do it even more this year as needed. Also, I mean, if I don't even realize that I don't like a book until I'm way into it, like 75%, I still want to be okay with giving up on it if I know that I'm not enjoying it. So that's another goal. I do also want to read more series this year. I want to try out more series that I feel like I will enjoy. I think that a series can feel like more of a commitment and a little bit scarier to jump into, but there are definitely lots out there that I feel like I would like, so I want to try more series out. And lastly, I want to prioritize this year reading more books from the same authors. 2023 was a big exploration for me, finding new authors, and now I have a few that I feel like I definitely enjoy, so I want to read more of their books. And if there are any authors that I find this year, new ones, is the sort of heartwarming story that I think I like, and it reminds me of the movie My Octopus Teacher, which I highly recommend if you haven't watched that movie. It is a documentary, actually, and it made me cry, which is rare for me, and it's really, really good. So I think I will like this book. Now, the second literary fiction book is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I have never read one of her books, and I'm not totally confident that I will like her writing, but at the same time, what some people say about it, which I can't really remember or explain well, but sometimes people describe her writing in a way that makes me think I will like it. So she has a few books, but for some reason Normal People appeals to me. Let's read the description. At school, Connell and Marianne pretend not to know each other. He's popular and well-adjusted, star of the school soccer team, while she is lonely, proud, and intensely private. But when Connell comes to pick his mother up from her housekeeping job at Marianne's house, a strange and incredible connection grows between the two teenagers, one they are determined to conceal. A year later, studying at Trinity College in Dublin, Marianne has found her feet in a new social world, while Connell hangs at the sidelines, shy and uncertain. Throughout their years in college, Marianne and Connell circle one another, straying toward other people and possibilities, but always magnetically, irresistibly drawn back together. Then, as she veers into self-destruction and he begins to search for meaning elsewhere, each must confront how far they are willing to go to save the other. Sally Rooney brings her brilliant psychological acuity and perfectly spirit prose to a story that explores the subtleties of class, the electricity of first love, and the complex entanglements of family and friendship. It just sounds like the kind of story that I would resonate with, and that's why I think I might like this. Next, I want to read another book from the author who wrote Dear Edward, a book that I raved about in my last couple of videos. It is, the author is Anne Napolitano, and she wrote a book that came out in 2023 called Hello Beautiful. Hello Beautiful. And I just feel like there's a good chance I'll like it because of how much I enjoyed Dear Edward. So it says, an emotionally layered and engrossing story of a family that asks, can love make a broken person whole? It's like freezing rain outside. I hope it's not too loud. William Waters grew up in a house silenced by tragedy, where his parents could hardly bear to look at him, much less love him. So it's a relief when his skill on the basketball court earns him a scholarship to college, far away from his childhood home. He soon meets Julia Padavano, a spirited and ambitious young woman who surprises William with her appreciation of his quiet steadiness. With Julia comes her family. She is inseparable from her three younger sisters. Sylvie, the dreamer, is happy protagonist with her nose in a book and imagines a future different from the expected path of wife and mother. Cecilia, the family's artist, and Emmeline, who patiently takes care of all of them. Happily, the Padavanos fooled Julia's new boyfriend into their loving, chaotic household. But then darkness from William's past surfaces, jeopardizing not only Julia's carefully orchestrated plans for their future, but the sisters' unshakable loyalty to one another. The result is a catastrophic family rift that changes their lives for generations. Will the loyalty that once rooted them be strong enough to draw them back together when it matters most? Vibrating with tenderness, Hello Beautiful is a gorgeous, profoundly moving portrait of what's possible when we choose to love someone, not in spite of who they are, but because of it. Not in spite of who they are, but because of it. I love the cover of that book, and I know that I love her writing. So I am very hopeful that I will enjoy that. But it does sound like more of a family drama type of story. Okay, the last book in this genre, which might be considered more historical fiction, but is called Betty, and this is by Tiffany McDaniel. I watch a YouTuber named Alexi, aka Newly Nova, and we have pretty similar tastes, and this is one of her favorite books, so that's kind of the main reason that I want to read it. I probably wouldn't have it on the list if I hadn't heard her talk about it, but it's really highly rated on Goodreads, 4.41, and it was nominated for Best Historical Fiction in 2020. And I believe that this is somewhat based on the author's real life, but I'm not sure of that. A stunning lyrical novel set in the rolling foothills of the Appalachians, in which a young girl discovers stark truths that will haunt her the rest of her life. A girl comes of age against the knife. So begins the story of Betty Carpenter. Born in a bathtub in 1954 to a Cherokee father and white mother, Betty is the sixth of 8 siblings. The world they inhabit is one of poverty and violence, both from outside the family and also devastatingly from within. The lush landscape, rich with darkest secrets, are brought to light. She has no choice but to reckon with the brutal history hiding in the house, as well as the heart-wrenching cruelties and incredible characters she encounters in her rural town of Breathitt, Ohio. But despite the hardships she faces, Betty is resilient. Her curiosity about the natural world, her fierce love for her sisters, and her father's brilliant stories are kindling for the fire of her own imagination. And in the face of all she bears witness to, Betty discovers an escape. She begins to write. She recounts the horrors of her family's past and present with pen and paper, and buries them deep in the dirt. Moments that have stung her so deeply she could not tell them until now. Inspired by the life of her own mother, Tiffany McDaniel sets out to free the past by telling this heartbreaking yet magical story of remarkable friendship, first love, rising fame, horrifying secrets, and pain all feel together in Binding 13. Binding 13 is the explosive first installment of a brand new series from Chloe Walsh. Based in Ireland, the Boys of Doman series is bound to captivate and lure you into the world of rugby, love, and teenage heartbreak. So it's somewhat of a sports romance as well. And I've heard that this book has some pretty intense stuff in it, but sorry, Cleo is snoring. But that is sort of something I like in books anyway. And the third romance book I want to read is what could be called a dark romance, which I don't think I've ever read before. And this is book one of a series as well. It is called the Mindfuck series. And book one is called The Risk. And this is by S.T. Abbey. And I believe this is about a romance between two serial killers. Or am I wrong? Is one of them a serial killer? Maybe. Let's see. The description is sort of in a weird format. It looks like a poem. But it says, I didn't expect him. I didn't want to fall in love, but I can't let him go. Logan Bennett makes the world a safer place. He's brilliant. He's a hero. He locks away the sick and depraved, but while he's saving lives, I'm taking them, collecting the debts that are owed to me. So I think that he is a police officer or an FBI agent or something like that, and he catches serial killers, and she is a serial killer. So it's a very dark romances have very interesting premises like that, and I've just never tried one, and this one is really highly rated, so I'm going to try this one out this year. And now this year I want to read more science fiction. First, I want to definitely read Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which is also a series. So this apparently is young adult. It's science fiction and fantasy and dystopia, apparently. And it says, Darrow is a red, a member of the lowest caste in the color-coded society of the future. Like his fellow Reds, he works all day, believing that he and his people are making the surface of Mars livable for future generations. Yet he spends his life willingly, knowing that his blood and sweat will one day result in a better world for his children. Alright, so I'm not going to keep reading the description because that already is just super interesting. And just to save time, I'm going to stop there, but like, doesn't that sound so interesting? A color-coded society, and like Mars. I mean, it just sounds very, very interesting to me. Very cool. So I have high hopes for that series. I'm a little concerned I'm going to have a hard time following it because I get confused easily. description to me sounds like a lot of sci-fi stories and movies, but I just know that it's going to be good, or I'm very sure it's going to be good, because it's just one of those books where people's, like, opinions are just so high, and usually I do like the books that people like a lot. So those are a couple sci-fi books that I definitely want to read. Now, I do read quite a bit of thrillers. I kind of feel like I might read less than I did last year, though. I've just been finding that a lot of them follow the same plot. And I just want to, I guess, try to pick thrillers that have more of a unique story. But there are two that I put on this list. The first is a book that I've been meaning to read for a very long time, and that was recommended to me from you guys, and it is The Outsider by Stephen King. So, this basically is, I believe, a murder mystery, and it just sort of reminds me of just the kind of vibe that I get from it is similar to True Detective for some reason, the TV show. But I think it's about a boy who dies, and it says, as the investigation expands and horrifying answers begin to emerge, King's propulsive story kicks into high gear, generating strong tension and almost unbearable suspense. So, I realized I'm not gonna have enough time to read every single description for every book, but I might just sort of skim them. But I know that some of you have been really wanting me to read this and just read Stephen King in general more, which I do plan to do. And I originally actually had a few King books on this list, and there are a few that I want to get to this year, but this is the one that I kind of am prioritizing right now, and this is the one I picked out to put on the list of his. Anyway, I am very excited to read The Outsider, and that is the first sort of thriller that I want to read. The second that I put on this list is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This is an older book. It's been made into a movie that I love, and that's kind of the main reason I want to read it. I kind of realized recently that I think a little bit counterintuitively, I like watching movies or TV shows before books that they're based on, because I think a lot of people like to do the opposite order, but I'm wondering if I do better with this order, because it gives me better visuals as I'm reading. I don't have the best imagination. I like for visualizing things, and I think that watching a movie first might help me with visualizing stuff, because characters look like, or could look like, and it just makes my brain process things easier and better. So, because I watched this movie, I think that I really like the story, and I think that I will enjoy reading it. But Gone Girl is about a woman who goes missing, and everybody really suspects the husband. But you kind of learn more about the wife who's missing, and I think the book might be a sort of unreliable narrator situation, and I do like that. So that's Gone Girl. I feel like a lot of you might have already read that because it's quite old, and if you did, let me know what you thought. Now, I have, as you know, if you watch me, I do, right now anyway, tend to read more fiction than nonfiction, but I have a few nonfiction books that I really want to read. I am actually reading one nonfiction right now, and that is Stephen King's memoir called On Reading. No. It's called On Writing. And I've heard that the book is really good and that it's really good for aspiring writers, which I kind of am. I'm kind of thinking of trying out fiction writing, so I'm listening to the audiobook for that right now, and it's narrated by him. And so far I really like it. So that's one nonfiction. But another one I want to read is a memoir called Educated. Educated by Tara Westover. This is a massive book that people love, and I think that it is about a woman who didn't have any education when she was a child, and then she basically educated herself and went to university, did really well, was really successful, and I think it's more complicated than that, but that is sort of the gist of it. So that's a nonfiction book I want to read soon. Another one I want to read soon, I was gifted for Christmas. And it sounds like it has a really interesting sort of thesis. It's called Feminism Against Progress. Feminism Against Progress. And it's by Mary Harrington. So, it says, modern feminism increasingly benefits only a small class of professional women. There is no reason to sacrifice everyone else's happiness for their sake. Mary Harrington shows that women's liberation was less the result of moral progress than an effect of the material consequences of the Industrial Revolution. We've now left the industrial era for the digital age, in which technology is liberating us from natural limits and embodied sex differences. This shift may benefit the elites, but it also makes it easier to commodify women's bodies, human intimacy, and female reproductive abilities. Feminism has been captured by well-off white-collar women who use it to advance their own economic and political interests under the pretense that these are the interests of all women. progress no longer benefits the majority of women, and only a feminism that is skeptical of it can truly defend their interests in the 21st century. So, it's definitely more of a political book, and I don't tend to read those, but I want to give it a try, and it does sound interesting to me. I am eager to hear more details about what she's trying to say, and interestingly, it sounds like she is sort of warning against The Handmaid's Tale, if you know about that book and show, maybe. What she's describing sounds like that at the end of that description. And I've never read that book or watched the show, but it's very scary. It's a very scary idea, and I'm just interested to know why she thinks that could happen. Now, to finish this video, I have a lot of fantasy books that I want to read this year. I figured out that I do like fantasy in general, but it is quite hit or miss for me. However, there are a lot out there. There are a lot out there that people love, and I just want to try a lot of them. Some of these are also from authors that I know I like from this past year. So, for example, the first one is a book by Ava Reed, who wrote this book here, Juniper and Thorn. And she just released this book in 2023, and it is called A Study in Drowning. This is a book that I've heard good things about. It has magic, but also it is sort of a dark academia book. So I feel like I might really like it. The second book I have on here is The Atlas Paradox, which is book 2 in the Atlas 6 series. And that's a book that I did enjoy. I did not love it, but I did like it, and I want to keep reading that series. So The Atlas Paradox I want to read. I want to try ACOTAR. I want to see if that is something I like, if I like Sarah J. Maas's writing. But whether or not I like ACOTAR, I want to also try Throne of Glass or other big series. So fantasy novel being released by Ali Hazelwood, which is typically, who is typically a romance writer exclusively, but like a contemporary romance writer. But she apparently is coming out with like a fantasy romance this year, and it is called Bride. I'm very excited about this one. It is about vampires and werewolves, and I just feel like it'll be a fun, quirky romance. Very excited. I forgot another one of Lee Bardugo's. She is coming out with a new book this year called The Familiar, and I definitely want to check that out. And I think that's it for fantasies that I've already like read, from authors that I've already read. I also want to try a few other fantasies. I want to try The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I want to try, that is by V.E. Schwab. I want to try Renegades. I want to try Circe, which is more of a Greek mythology book. I want to read, finally, this is the last one on my list, An Ember in the Ashes. So these are all books that, again, are very highly loved and sound really good to me, that I want to try. And I'm hoping that added up to 24. These are books that I definitely plan on picking up. I hope that I do. But of course there will be others that pop up and others that are on my mind that didn't make this list. So I'm super excited to read right now. I'm feeling really good, especially